I've been robbed as an American. I just want to say I've been robbed because we don't have um history that far back for one. I mean, we probably do, but they don't teach us it because it's probably like to do with the Indians and stuff. Imagine your dad setting you up that bad. That's fucking crazy. Imagine getting set up bad. I'd be so pissed. In the afterlife, I'd be beating my dad forever because, like, bro, what the before I've been going to bed, I've been watching a lot of things about like Japanese history and stuff like that, and that has been absolutely amazing. Like, I think learning about these things from, Assassin's Creed is like cool and all, but then like really getting more of the backstory about it because I'm very unfamiliar with like Japanese history. Um, yeah. It's been quite interesting. I was listening last night to basically the events that seem to happen after Assassin's Creed Shadows, like what were like the person who takes over after Nobunaga dies. Um it's a really messed up. So there's this guy who comes to power and he's in Shadows. He's in Assassin's Creed Shadows. It's Hideyoshi, I believe. And he came to power and it took him like forever to have a son. He was like 60 or something apparently. And then he finally had a child. But before he'd done that, before he had a son that he could like pass the heir of the throne to, essentially, the person he was going to pass it to in the event of him dying was his like nephew or like an adopted nephew or something like that. And he demanded at some point when, his son was doing well and his son was like getting a little bit older, like he was like a toddler or something, he told his nephew to commit seppuku, which is suicide. And he didn't, apparently. Like, he refused to do that. And so Hideyoshi sent all of his guards and everybody like that to dude's like family and killed like all of his like his wife and children and extended family, like everything the dude had. He just like everyone because the dude wouldn't like off himself. I was just like I like listening to the YouTube video and I was just like just the whole time I'm just like, are you serious? Really? No. Stop. And so it gets worse. So dude did off with the nephew and nephew's whole family and everything like that. Their bodies were dragged out in the streets and everything, apparently. And he ends up passing, and his son's like 5. And there's this other guy. I think it started with an A or O. Ayoshi? No, A. Oh, it was so many different names that they were hitting me with. I'm gonna forget them. But anyways, there was another dude that promised to take care of Hideyoshi's son. Ieyasu. I think that's his name. Ieyasu. Ieyasu promised to take care of Hideyoshi's son. And then Ieyasu had to fight a bunch of horrible battles and like a bunch of people died and he barely made it with some alliances that he had, but he did. He like preserved the right for like their side to rule and everything in the name of, though, like he was ruling at the time, but it was just because like Hideyoshi's son was too young and they had to wait for him to like become an adult. So Homeboy, as he's becoming a young adult, gets advised, Hideyoshi's son gets advised by people that Ieyasu is like, I mean, why would he go all out of his way to protect Japan, and their side and everything if he's not just going to try to take over for himself and not really let the son who never met his father pretty much, or probably just doesn't remember him, who had a horrible father who did horrible things. But like, is that kid's fault? Um, but like Ieyasu did not want to let that child rule, and like he wanted to like, you know, take it for himself, and he had like a bunch of different sons that could be heirs in case he died and everything like that. So yeah, um they ended up fighting, and then they sent a woman samurai to Hideyoshi child's mother, and she told her son to back down during a battle that was like really, really bad between them. And Ieyasu made promises that his garrison and all of his people and stuff like that would be left alone if he would just let Ieyasu rule and just like not fight against him. And instead of holding his word, he just went in and then butchered them all. Kind of like how his father did to the kid that he adopted as a nephew in the name of trying to make his son king, or, you know, ruler of Japan. They don't call it king. But that child was like 5. And then yeah. And I was like, I was just like, what the like that's imagine your dad setting you up that bad. That's fucking crazy. Imagine getting set up that fucking bad. I'd be so pissed. In the afterlife, I'd be beating the shit out of my dad forever. Because, like, bro, what the fuck? Like, how you set me up that bad? That the dude who was supposed to protect me ended up betraying me when I finally became an adult, and then, like, told me I'd be chill if I would just, like, let him rule, and then came in and slaughtered all of it. Like, no way. And he probably, like, really mainly did it, like, because then they say, like, Ieyasu was, like, pretty resentful over it. He, like, wrote the name of the Buddha 10,000 times or something like that to, like, try to repent and everything. Like, he felt bad that he had to do that, but he had to, like, guarantee his, like, succession as ruler and, like, get rid of him and everything like that. And he couldn't just, like, let him live in a garrison somewhere, because then he could just, I don't know, decide to, like, run against him again, because he had it. And the other thing, though, was, but, like, it was because Hideyoshi took advantage of Nobunaga, like, dying, and just was like, yeah, I'm gonna rule in his place. And no one, like, really decided that or anything, apparently. Like, he just did it. And, like, yeah, he did a lot of things in Nobunaga's name and, like, for him, and kept Japan united afterwards, apparently. But he just had some, like, really fucked up ways doing it. And then he set his son up like that. That's crazy. And anyways, I've been robbed as an American. I just want to say I've been robbed, because we don't have history that far back, for one. I mean, we probably do, but they don't teach us it, because it's probably, like, to do with the Indians and stuff, you know, the actual people who were here first in America. You know, we're only taught it when we're in school. It, like, blows my mind to think about that all I was allowed to, like, know about my, like, the area in which I live and the people I'm related to. I only know, like, 200 years, maybe 3, 4, if I'm lucky. Like, not even. Like, so we don't have, like, 1,000 years ago or 500 plus in between there, like, that portion. And I find that portion, like, in between 1,000 and 1,000, like, 1,600, you know, in order for Americans to, like, get any sort of idea of the people who were related to and how they lived in, like, 14 to 1,600, we just have to look all around Europe. We don't know. Just somewhere in there. You could just pick any country and just decide. Really, you know, take an ancestry test, and they still tell you, well, you're just a mutt. Yeah, like, it's I feel so robbed of like a culture that I can like really study. What do you want to know? But yeah, I just I wish that the things that happened here in America like 1,000 years ago, or like in about 1500, 1600, like what were they doing here? That's really hard to find out because they erased a lot of like what the Indians and any other native people, Native Americans that were here before the English decided to just invade. So I find it just so cool, like the rich, thorough, well documented history that Japan has. And it's so like insane, and it's like because it's so insane to me it's super believable. Now history, it's been rewritten many times and it could not be true. Hell, the information I got from the YouTube videos that I've been watching could not be true. I tend to look for ones that seem to be super credible because they have a shitload of views and everybody in the comments seems to like not be correcting anything that's like said, like they're not like trying to like fact check them or whatever. I would imagine if there's like a bunch of misinformation that maybe somebody would call it out or whatever. I don't know. So yeah, they were living the life. Yeah, like I don't know. I find that stuff like really really interesting because I wish that I had a bit better idea of exactly my own bloodline and like what was going on that long ago, and instead it's just we it's 1776, like that's kind of where we start, right? And yeah, 300-400 years ago we're lucky to get, but they have like 500-600 years ago um shit was going on. It was crazy out there in Japan. Right before guns started spreading everywhere too. I think that's the most interesting thing. Like guns, they were around. They had the tepos as we can see in Assassin's Creed Shadows, but they take a hot minute to reload. And if it's wet, they probably didn't work. And not everyone had a gun, nor did everyone know how to make the fucking guns. It's not like everybody in Japan figured out how to make the guns. They were just kind of letting them be brought in, from the Portuguese and whatever not. So if everybody didn't figure out how to make the guns, and the guns broke or they got wet, like it was down to the swords still, and it's just so cool because it was a really sort of dice rolly. I think that's probably why they like the idea of our like Wild West stuff when we had a period where guns were very prevalent, but all of our guns were super basic. And they stayed that way for like a hot minute. Or at least there's just like a solid amount of stories from that time and everything. Like a lot was documented because people were becoming, I guess, a bit more like civilized. It's like, it's weird the effect that the guns have had because it's like in certain areas, I feel like there's parts of the world that weren't getting places with mass amounts of people, huge cities and stuff like that until people had ways to you have to have a way to like protect mass amounts of people, right? If mass amounts of people gather somewhere and you don't have a giant army, why are a bunch of people going to gather somewhere or something like that, right? Um so I think that the guns started, allowing people to like create giant hubs for people to really start gathering in those times, in those like feudal times. But when the guns were more basic, you know, it wasn't easy to spray down an entire crowd of people. But it was lethal against like a few people. Made things interesting. Like I said, a sort of dice roll. Probably was quite an interesting fucking time to live through. Yeah, I don't know. I just been finding that stuff really, really interesting because I've been, watching that like every night, and I was like, I could, I don't think I'm gonna obviously watch a 3 hour history special. I also don't even know if like that's allowed. Like, I mean, it's on YouTube, so I probably could watch it on Twitch. I don't know. Like, I feel like some of these things definitely like because it was like on TV. But then like you look at the channel, it's like a channel that uploads like a bunch of different documentaries from random places. Like it's not like they made it themselves. So like if they can upload it, can't I watch it like on Twitch? I don't know. Cuz like you can't like cuz there's like fucking whole movies on here that people upload and stuff. Like just because somebody uploaded doesn't mean it's like safe to watch and react to. Depends on the content.